بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد عليه الصلاة والتسليم أما بعد. So we will continue inshallah Surah Baqarah from ayah 231, which is around all the different rulings with regards to divorce, what you do and how you treat women in marriage and stuff like that in Surah Baqarah. Allah Azza wa Jalla here continues said, وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ سَرِّحُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. If you divorce your women, فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ, meaning they have, when someone divorces a woman, she has to stay for 3 months without marrying anybody or without marrying someone else, right? So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فَأَمْسِكُونَ بِمَعْرُوفٍ, either you hold them with generosity or سَرِّحُونَ بِمَعْرُوفٍ, or let them go with generosity. In other words, if you divorce someone but that someone still is in need of you and you can support her, you can continue to support her even during the waiting period that she has. Waiting period could be whether she's pregnant and the waiting period is until she delivers the baby, or the waiting period is 3 months after the divorce. وَلَا تُمْسِكُهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا, and do not hold them back. You divorce them but you hold them back and you imprison them just so you can transgress onto them. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ, and whoever does this, he has wronged done himself. He has went against himself. Why? Because now he has caused himself a sin that Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to take him to task and to account for it on the day of Qiyamah. وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا, do not take the sign of Allah Azza wa Jalla as a mockery. This is not something that is easy that you can take. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَا أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ يَعِظُكُمْ بِهِ, and remember the favor that Allah Azza wa Jalla has bestowed onto you and what He has revealed unto you in terms of in the book, in terms of wisdom and advice that is given to you. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, and fear Allah. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ, and know that Allah Azza wa Jal is well aware and knows everything. وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ يَنكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ إِذَا تَرَاضَوْا بَيْنَهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. So here there was a lady, she was married to someone, and then he divorces her. When he divorced her, so later after the divorce he wanted to marry her again, and then she agreed to the marriage and they kind of reconciled together and they want to remarry. Her brother held her back. He says, no, you can't marry this man. I'm not going to allow you to marry this man. Now her brother was Wali al-Amr. He was the one in charge of her. So this ayah came down and says, no. If they want to come back and they have agreement to go back to them, don't hold them back. So what you're doing as brother, you're not supposed to be doing. So then right away that Sahabi, that brother, he's just let her and they got married back together. He let his sister marry that man again.
Not after the divorce.
After the divorce. You're allowed, see, the divorce, like we said last time, is 2 times. And then the 3rd time, once you divorce the 3rd time, she can't go back to him unless she marries for good someone else. And if she divorces that someone else for any other reason, then she can come back to her husband. Right? Here we're talking about a single divorce. Yes.
Okay. So there's a perception, especially in Pakistan, India basically,
Yeah.
that once you get divorced, the only way you can marry each other again is if the woman has to marry somebody else and then get divorced from him, then you can marry.
Correct. So it's not that. So and this is the ayat, just the page before that, this is where we ended last time in the tafsir. So the ayat are very, very clear. الطلاق مرتان, divorce is twice. You divorce the first time, you can remarry again, no problem, the same woman. You divorce her the 2nd time, you can remarry her again the 2nd time. There's no problem. You divorce the 3rd time, right? Then she's not yours unless she goes marry someone else. Now, she can't just go marry someone else for 1 day and then divorce just to go back to that person. That is zina. That is not haram. The marriage has to be intended for good. So if she for good married someone else and things didn't work out and she ended up divorcing that person, then she can go back to her husband. So that's in this third case, so it's not about perception or what. I mean, this is the ruling. This is very very clear in the Quran, and it's the ayat that are prior to that.
So third is basically the final one. After the first two, there is a period you have to wait before you say the third one.
You can divorce. You can come back to the next day. No issue. There's no waiting period between you and your own husband.
Right.
There's a waiting period between you and someone else. So, for example, if I am married to that lady and I divorce that lady.
No, let me repeat my question.
Go ahead.
If 2 times said, and before saying the third time, there should be a minimum period, right?
There isn't period.
To say third time and do the final divorce.
There's no waiting period between divorces,
Okay.
right? So you can divorce today, remarry tomorrow, then divorce the next day, then remarry again. Then you divorce. You cannot remarry unless you marry someone else. That's the ruling. Now, the waiting period is only, and this is what we're reading about this ayah here, which is ayah 231, that. Not this one. Yeah. So, what we've read before is if you divorce someone, she can't marry someone else, the lady, unless she finishes her waiting period, which is either 3 months, okay, or 3 actually period cycles, or if she's pregnant until she delivers a baby. And then her period is over, then she can marry someone else. That's the waiting period. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla here in ayah 232 says, وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَيَبْلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ. Yeah, this is what we were talking about. That if you divorce a woman, and that woman later wants to go back to her husband, and her husband agreed, her brother can't hold her back from going back to her husband. Because then Allah Azza wa Jalla continues and says in this ayah, فلا تعضلون أن يحكينا زوجنا إذا تراضوا بينهم بالمعروف ذلك يوعظ به من كان منكم يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر. This is an advice for those who believe in Allah on the final day. ذلكم أزكى لكم وأطهر. Know that it is much better for you and much more pure to go back to your original husband. Subhanallah, there is a wisdom in Allah Azza wa Jal. One last thing, وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And Allah knows and you know not. Subhanallah. You have a question, brother?
Yeah. Even there is no waiting period between the divorce, is there necessity for nikah again for the second time?
No.
When you remarry her?
No, it's just you can remarry right away. She can say I want to remarry you, and then you can remarry her, and that's okay. You come back together. There's no new kitab or anything, unless. I don't know. Let's put it this way. I don't know. There might be a kitab required again, because if let's say you had a kitab and then you pay the mutaakhir, the money that you owe, there has to be a new contract, what you owe and what you give, subhanAllah. So I don't know about that, subhanAllah. Then in the next ayah, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَن يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَ. And the mothers, وَالْوَالِدَات, the mothers, يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ. So if you divorce a woman, and that woman has a suckling baby, a nursing child, she's supposed to nurse the child up to 2 years. After 2 years, she's not required to, you can't force her to say, no, breastfeeding longer and longer. The maximum is 2 years. And if we go back to other ayat, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ 30 شهرا. The carrying of the baby, and by the time you wean the baby, is 30 months. So if you say carrying the baby is 9 months, so you have 21 months in terms of breastfeeding. So anywhere from 21 months to 2 years is the woman is supposed to actually feed the baby, even if she's divorced. Right? She's supposed to take care of the baby and feed him and nurse him in that period. لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَن يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَةَ. Whoever wants to complete the rida'a, complete the suckling. So the maximum is 3 years. وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكُسْوَتُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And the father is required to feed the mother and the baby and clothe the mother and the baby. So he has to provide for them bil ma'ruf. You see this word is used so many times in these pages with generosity. So you don't feed them and you say, yeah, I'm feeding you because I have to, or no, yeah, and then you give them like the ripped off, ripped clothes, or you treat them not nicely. You have to treat them with generosity. بالمعروف. لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. SubhanAllah. This is the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah Azza wa Jalla says no soul is going to be asked to do more than it can bear. So if you are rich, you can give more. If you are poor, it's okay, whatever you can, but you have to provide with generosity, with the best that you can, inshallah. لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده. So the mother should not be harmed, should not be asked also to do more than she can do, neither the father. So all of you have to do the best that you can, inshallah. وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك. Similarly, if the one that is inheriting, like let's say the father died after they divorced, the person who inherits the money and the wealth from the father is supposed to continue to provide and to treat with generosity the same way. SubhanAllah. وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك. فإن أراد فصالا عن تراض منهما وتشاور فلا جناح عليهما. And if two are married and they want to divorce because they have agreement between both of, sorry, this is going back to the same people. They're divorced and they are, she's breastfeeding, but then they agreed. He says, no, I don't want you to feed, I have someone else to breastfeed, you can go your way, I can go my way, and they both agreed to that. It's okay as long as you are in agreement. SubhanAllah. In Islam, even divorce has to be at the best of its, face, at the best of its, behavior. بالمعروف, in generosity. وإن أردتم أن تسترضعوا أولادكم فلا جناح عليكم. Even if you want to go ask someone else to feed your children, it's okay. إذا سلمتم ما أتيتم بالمعروف. If you give what you were supposed to give with generosity. Like you treat you agreed with your wife and she said, okay, you can, and then you gave her the money that you owe her, it's okay. Allah Azza wa Jalla says you can do that. واتقوا الله. And then Allah will fear Allah Azza wa Jalla. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. And know that Allah Azza wa Jalla sees everything that you do. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla, after He talked about the divorce and what happened when two people separate, who takes care of which child and stuff like that, then Allah Azza wa Jalla, now He's talking about, well, what if the husband died? What is the situation of that woman? What if she was pregnant? What if she's not pregnant? What are the situations? And Allah Azza wa Jalla answers those in these ayats. وَالَّذِينَ يَتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ وَيَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ أَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرٍ وَعَشْرًا. We said the woman, when she divorces her husband, her waiting period is, if she's pregnant, that's her waiting period until she delivers. Then she can actually marry, or she has to stay for 3 periods, which is basically 3 months, if she was not pregnant. But here what Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, if a woman, her husband died, she has a little bit more. So the hadad, which is the grieving period onto Muslims, is 3 days. With the exception of the wife on her husband, not the husband on his wife. The husband on his wife, his grieving period is 3 days. After 3 days, he can go remarry the man. The woman, her grieving period when her husband dies is 4 months and 10 days. أربعة أشهر وعشرة. 4 months and 10 days. She can't leave her house except for necessity. And according to the hadith, she leaves after people go to work during the daytime, and she comes back before the rush hour, before people start coming back home. And she's supposed to wear clothes that is not appealing to others for 4 months and 10 days. She can't marry, she has to stay in her home most of the time. وَالَّذِينَ يَتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ, those who die among you, وَيَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا, and they leave wives behind. يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِمْ أَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرٍ وَعَشْرًا. They stay by themselves in their homes for 4 months and 10 days. فَإِذَا بَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنْ, when that waiting period is over, فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي مَا فَعَلْنَ فِي أَنفُسِهِنَّ مِن مَّعْرُوفٍ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. There's no harm if they go and did and they go remarry, go find a job or whatever, bil ma'ruf, with generosity according to what is acceptable in Islam. Ma'ruf. Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir, and knows that Allah Azza wa Jalla is very well aware of what you do. ولا جناح عليكم فيما عرضتم به من خطبة النساء أو أكننتم في أنفسكم. And there is no harm for you if you go and you do khutbah, you go and you seek and you want to marry, you have an intention to marry the woman, أو أكننتم في أنفسكم, and there is no, like for example, al-kitab, or the marriage, it needs to be publicly announced. The khutbah is not necessarily, you don't have to go and publicly announce it to the community. You read the Fatiha, you have the intention, and then later at the nikah, the whole community needs to know. علم الله أنكم كنتم علم الله أنكم ستذكرونهن ولكن لا تواعدوهن سرا إلا أن تقولوا قولا معروفا. Allah Azza wa Jal knows that you have the intentions to marry them, but don't go and meet with them in secret places and alone. This is not acceptable in Islam. Except that you're saying to them things that are generous, things that are acceptable, things that are appropriate. SubhanAllah. ولا تعزموا عقدة النكاح حتى يبلغ الكتاب أجله. And do not go do nikah until the kitab is already been written, contracted, documented, and done. So there's the witnesses, everything is agreed upon. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ فَاحْذَرُوهُ. Know that Allah Azza wa Jalla knows what's inside of your hearts. So be wary, be wary of Allah Azza wa Jalla. فَاحْذَرُوهُ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ حَلِيمٌ. And know that Allah Azza wa Jalla is the most forgiving, He's the most wise. SubhanAllah, the most forbearing. لا جناح عليكم إن طلقتم النساء ما لم تمسوهن أن تفرضوا لهن فريضة. So Allah Azza wa Jalla here, when you marry a woman, you have to say, okay, if I divorce you, I owe you $50,000. You can pay this during your marriage, or you can wait and pay it at the time of divorce if divorce happens. If divorce doesn't happen, it's sunnah to pay it during the marriage. So here Allah Azza wa Jalla says, لا جناح عليكم إن طلقتم النساء. There is no harm unto you if you divorce a woman, ما لم تمسوهن. So you divorce them before you touch them. So you did the kitab, but there was no dukhla. You actually didn't live together, and you're still arranging the celebration, the walima, like what we did here the other day, right? My daughter had the kitab done, but after the wedding, that's when they actually moved out, right? So during that period, that you don't have, and you haven't actually, let's say you haven't touched them, you haven't even written the contract of what's going to be the mutaakhir, what you're going to pay them, then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, in that situation, you don't have a contract between them. You didn't tell them, if I divorce you, I'm going to give you $50,000. You didn't say that. You got, you have the intention, you've done the kitab, but the nikah hasn't done, and you can come together. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَمَتِّعُوهُنَّ عَلَى الْمُوسِعِ قَدَرٍ. So when you let them go, the one who is rich, give him whatever you can, and the one who is poor, whatever you can. So be generous and give what you want, what you can. There is no obligatory here. حقا على المحسنين. This is, those who want to do ihsan, to be muhsinin, this is something that they must do. وإن طلقتموهن من قبل أن تمسوهن وقد فرضتم لهن فريضة. If you divorce them, but you haven't touched them yet, but you have a contract and agreement that at divorce you're going to pay them an X amount of money, then you give them half of that amount of money. That's your requirement here. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla, قَدْ فَرَضْتُمْ لَهُنَّ فَرِيضَةً فَنِصْفُ مَا فَرَضْتُمْ. You give them half of what you have already agreed upon. إِلَّا أَن يَعْفُونَ أَوْ يَعْفُوَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ عُقْدَةُ النِّكَاحِ. Unless they both agree that, no, we don't want anything, or the one who is in charge of the nikah, the wali al-amr, or whoever is done the contract, says it's okay, I'm fine, I don't want anything for my daughter, then it's okay, you don't have to pay anything. But if they insisted, you have to pay maximum I mean, you have to pay minimum the 50% of what was agreed upon before. وَأَن تَعْفُوا أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. Look at the subhanallah, Allah Azza wa Jal, His wisdom. He says, forgiving is much closer to taqwa. So you, father of the bride, yeah, this man didn't touch your wife, and it was just things didn't work out. Don't be greedy and ask for money. You can if you want to, but don't be greedy. It's much closer to taqwa if you do afu, if you forgive. وَأَن تَعْفُوا أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Why? Because don't forget that during that period there were fadl, there were generosity between you. You shared bread, you shared food, you shared, things together. So don't let all this go to null and fight and just argue about this. Be generous. إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. Know that Allah Azza wa Jal sees everything that you do. Then Allah Azza wa Jal here tells us, this is a khitab also to the believers, and after He tells us all this, He goes and He reminds us, حَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى. Be very, very mindful and be very, very punctual on your salat, and specifically the middle salat. So if we start with Fajr, what is the middle salat? Is Asr. But according to the hadith and tafsir, there is difference of opinion, even with the Sahaba of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some said the Salat al-Wusta is Salat al-Dhuhr, some said it's Salat al-Asr. Wallahu alam. But at the end of the day, Allah Azza wa Jal starts the ayah with what? حَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ. Be very punctual onto your salat. What's Salat al-Wusta? And also specifically the middle one. وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. And stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal with total fear and total khushu' and total qunut. You know that you're standing in front of your deity and you worship Him. فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ. Look, subhanallah. The salat throughout the Quran, here in Surah An-Nisa, has never been dropped. There's no circumstance where you don't do your salat. You can't miss your salat. And then Allah Azza wa Jal says, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ, meaning you are in a state of fear. State of fear here, and as you'll see now in the next ayat, is state of jihad, state of fighting. You are in the battlefield. You're in the battlefield and people coming after you with swords or shooting at you with guns, and it's time for salah. Farukmanan. You're riding your horse, do your salat while you're riding your horse. You're riding your car, do your salat while you're riding your car. You're riding a plane, do your salat while you're riding a plane. You're running, do your salat while you're running. Right? And Allah Azza wa Jal teaches us during the fear salat, there's also, you can do it only with one rak'ah. You don't have to do all the rak'at, but at least do your salat. فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا. If you fear, do it while you're walking, while you're running, rijalan, أو ركبانا, or while you're riding a car, a horse, a donkey, whatever it is, right? أو ركبانا. فإذا أمنتم, once you come to a state of tranquility where there is no fear, there's nobody running after you, you're not in the battlefield, فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَمَا عَلَّمَكُمْ مَا لَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْلَمُونَ. Remember Allah the way He taught you things that you knew not before. وَالَّذِينَ, then Allah Azza wa Jal here goes back. They ask Him also about this specific situation with regards to death. Then Allah Azza wa Jal answered, وَالَّذِينَ يَتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ. Those who die, pass away from you. وَيَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا وَصِيَّةً لِأَزْوَاجِهِمْ مَتَاعًا إِلَى الْحَوْلِ غَيْرَ إِخْرَاجٍ. Here, this ayah was mansukha, has the hukum of this ayah was erased later in Surah An-Nisa, where Allah Azza wa Jal gives the mirath, who inherits what and how much. Like the woman gets 1/4 of her husband's if she doesn't have children. If he doesn't have children, if they do have children, then she gets 1/8 and stuff like that. So here what Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, الَّذِينَ يَتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ, those who die among you, وَيَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا, and they leave behind their wives. وَصِيَّةً لِأَزْوَاجِهِمْ, Allah Azza wa Jal has left a wasiyah, a requirement onto their husbands, that they leave to them مَتَاعًا إِلَى الْحَوْلِ غَيْرَ إِخْرَاجٍ, that they have to stay in their homes for 1 year without leaving. Right? That their husbands, I made a mistake. They're supposed to say 4 months and 10 days. We said that. Here what this ayah is saying is, let's say they're staying at their husband's house. Their husband, according to this ayah, but this ayah, the hukum has came and was improved, you could say, or mansukha, is not fully mansukha in Surah Nisa. Their husband are required to at least, to leave them, to take care of, not their husband. the household of their husband, those who inherited the money from their husbands. Let's say the children. If she is in this house and her husband died, they are required to keep her at least 1 year. إلى الحول غير إخراج. If she doesn't want to leave the house. But if she left the house on her own, it's okay, she can leave whenever she wants. But during the period of 1 year, if she decided to stay in the house of her husband that was deceased, she has to stay and they have to provide for her. But then Allah Azza wa Jalla later in Surah Nisa says, no, she gets 4th or 8th of the inheritance, so she doesn't necessarily need to stay, she can go wherever she wants. That's where the hukum was mansukhin. فَإِنْ خَرَجْنَا, if they left the house of their husband, فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِيمَا فَعَلْنَا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. There's no harm for you, for them, whatever they done. There's no harm unto you for not keeping them back if they decided to leave. Let's say after 4 months and 10 days, their husband is dead, they want to leave and they want to go live somewhere else. There's no sin unto you that you didn't keep them for 1 year. But you can't kick them out before the 1 year. Right? That's the difference. مما في أنفسهم معروف والله عزيز حكيم. No, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He's all mighty, He's the all wise. وللمطلقات متاع بالمعروف حقا على المتقين. And to those divorcee, the ladies that are divorced, متاع بالمعروف, they're supposed to be treated with generosity حقا على المتقين. It is a must unto the muttaqin. You are required to take care of them and treat them in generosity. كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تعقلون. Indeed, this is how Allah Azza wa Jal make it very clear for you, His signs and His ayat. Maybe you will start to understand. Now here, subhanAllah, there's a beautiful story. So we'll start it if you want, and then we will. We can continue it after Maghrib Salat. There's the story of Goliath, what's his name? David and Goliath. So if you want to listen to it, it's beautiful. We won't take too long. But I'll read a couple of ayat here. We'll start Maghrib Salat and we can continue, or we can continue next week. But it's a beautiful story to listen to, inshallah. So Allah Azza wa Jalla here says, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ خَرَجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ وَهُمْ أُلُوفٌ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ. So there was among the people of Bani Israel, this is after the time of Musa alayhi salam. They were, according to some of the hadith, some of them said they were 4,000, some of them said they were 80,000. Wallahu alam which number, but they were uluf. So can't you see those from Bani Israel that left their homes, and there were thousands of them. Ulufun, hadar al-maut, fear of death. What happened is, where they lived, they felt scared that plague is going to kill them where the town they were. They were plagued. So they left the town, fear of death. And another narration or another explanation says that they were fearing the fever. They were high fever in town and stuff. So they left the town thinking that this town is infested. We're gonna leave that town, fear of death. So هم خروج ألوف حذر الموت فقال لهم الله موتوا. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla told them die, and He killed them all. They're afraid, they're running away from death. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, you can't run away from death. It's not so. The wisdom from this ayah is not saying, you go to a place that is infested and you say, no, I'm just gonna stay there and I'm not gonna die. That's not smart. That's not the right thing to do. But here there was a lesson that Allah Azza wa Jalla wanted to teach them. He's like, you can be a little cleaner, you can work as a community together, it's not like, you infest a place and you go, you infest a place and you go, you infest a place and you go. And it was a warning also to the Prophet Muhammad, not Prophet Muhammad, the people at the time, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were fighting him, to say, you think, Allah Azza wa Jal just destroyed people just like that, can destroy you the same way. وَهُمْ أُلُوفٌ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ فَقَالَ لَهُمُ اللَّهُ مُوتُوا. Allah died them. Then there was a prophet passing by, Allah Azza wa Jal sent him, and he made dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, ثُمَّ أَحْيَاهُمْ, and then Allah Azza wa Jal brought them back to life. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Indeed, Allah Azza wa Jal has His favor unto mankind, but most mankind are not thankful to Allah Azza wa Jal. So Allah showed them that I can die you and I can bring you back to life. This is the second time that Allah Azza wa Jal died the people, Bani Israel. He died them at the time of Musa. Now He died them at the second time, and this time there were thousands of them. And some narration says 80,000, some narration says 4,000. But this ayah says ulufun, they were thousands of them. Hadar al-maut, fear of dying. فقال لهم الله موتوا ثم أحياهم إن الله على ذو فضل على الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون وقاتلوا في سبيل الله. Then Allah Azza wa Jal here is telling us, and go fight in the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. وقاتلوا في سبيل الله واعلموا أن الله سميع عليم. And know that Allah Azza wa Jal hears and sees and knows everything. And here, fighting in the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal, you repel the evil, you repel what is those who are fighting your faith, those who are fighting Islam, those who are kicking you out of your town, you go and you stand up for justice. Then Allah Azza wa Jal, and I'm going to stop at this ayah and then we'll do Maghrib Salat inshallah. مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا فَيُضَاعِفَهُ لَهُ أَضْعَافًا كَثِيرًا. So then Allah Azza wa Jal here is asking the believers and asking us, who is going to give Allah Azza wa Jal a good loan? Good loan. Allah is asking for a loan. يقرض الله قرضا حسنا فيضاعفه له أضعافا كثيرة. And Allah Azza wa Jal is going to multiply it for him a large number. And later we'll see in Surah Baqarah, Allah Azza wa Jal says He multiplies it 700 times and more. So if you donate 1,000, it's like you're donating $700,000 in terms of rewards. Allah Azza wa Jal will reward you folds and folds and folds. يضاعفه له أضعافا كثيرة. A lot of rewards. والله يقبض ويبسط وإليه ترجعون. And Allah Azza wa Jal holds and gives to whomever He pleases, and to Him you're going to return. So if you think you have wealth today and you think no, I want to keep it, Allah can take it away from you. And if you give today, know that Allah Azza wa Jal can give you. So Allah يقبض ويبسط. Allah is the one who can take and give. So don't think that no, I have this money, I'm not going to give because I fear that I'm not going to lose it. Know that everything is in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal. وإليه ترجعون, and to Him you're going to return inshallah.